Sometimes in our lives we have what I would call a tagline. It's something that we just kind of throw out there sometimes without even thinking about it. And, one of the things that I would call a tagline is like you see somebody and instead of saying hi or hello, you say, "How are you?" And truthfully, most of the time, they really don't care how you are, but that's what I call a tagline. You just kind of throw that out, "How are you?" And I've developed a way of finding out if they really want to know how I are. And I said, "You want the long answer or the short answer?" And I've never had anybody say, "I want the long answer." Well, one of the other taglines is I've noticed a lot of people, instead of saying goodbye or "I'll see you," they say "love you." And it's interesting because love is certainly, like faith, the basis of our Christian relationship. It's certainly the basis of God coming to us with the message of salvation. So love is very important. But at the same time, we can let things like this become a tagline that we say, "Love you," without even thinking about it. And I want to talk some today about God's kind of love and what it really means to us. I want to turn to the book of Romans 13:8. And it says, "Owe no one anything except to love one another. For he who loves has fulfilled the law." Love is very important in our Christian walk, in our relationship with Christ. But the question then is, what does it really mean to love? If you take a concordance, which if in a concordance you look up a word, you look up love, you look in the New Testament, there's, a half a page of references of where the word love is used. And probably 98% of the time, the word is agape. It's a God kind of love. Agape love, it's not soft and mushy. That's Hollywood's kind of love. God's kind of love is not soft and mushy. In fact, sometimes the most loving thing you can do a person is give them a good, swift kick in the seat of the pants. Sometimes love needs to be tough. Sometimes it needs to be soft and mushy. And we need to really ask God for the wisdom to understand what kind of love do I need to give to those around me, that it'll be a God kind of love. I've had a saying for a long time that goes like this: if you let a bully be a bully, he'll become a bigger bully. But if you back a bully in the corner and inflict pain on him, he may decide that being a bully isn't really the way he wants to live, and he'll change his life. And if you back that bully into a corner and inflict some pain onto him, that's God's kind of love, because it may just turn his life around and make his life worthwhile not only to himself, but to those around him. I want to jump over to Luke in the 10th chapter. Luke 25 through 37. Jesus said, "Behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, 'Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?'" Great question. Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? What is your reading of it?" And so the man answered, and he said, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So the lawyer said to him, you have answered, or he said to the lawyer, you have answered rightly. Do this and you will live. But he, meaning the lawyer, wanting to justify himself, said to Jesus, who is my neighbor? That's a great question. And Jesus answered the question for us by telling a parable, the parable of the Good Samaritan. So as we think about who is my neighbor, I'd like to look at 3 points here that I think the story illustrates to us. That number one, your neighbor is not the guy that lives beside you, but it's a person who has a need. And that need, that person cannot fulfill himself. And that person has found himself in need not because he acted stupidly, not because he was following the flesh, but because life just sometimes dumps on us. And so we find a person that life has dumped on, not because of anything he did. Number two, the person who is to show love to this person that has a need, the person who's going to love him has the resources to meet this person's need. And the third characteristic of demonstrates love, agape love, because it costs the person showing love something. Okay, so we've got a person who is in need, can't help himself. It's beyond him. We've got a second person in the story that has the resources if he wants to apply them. And the person, if he chooses to help the man in need, it's going to cost him. We need to understand that. When God showed his love to mankind, it cost him dearly. It cost his son going to the cross, stepping down from the glory of heaven, which we can't even imagine what that's like. To live on the earth, to die as if he were a sinner for something he never did, one of the most painful ways to die that's been devised. If I pay a price and sacrifice to show love to someone, then I'm loving. That is sacrificial love. If I love somebody with my actions and I take credit for it, that's worldly love. If I touch that same person's life with love and I glorify Jesus Christ, that's godly love. You know, the Bible doesn't exactly define that, but Paul talks a very similar thing when he says there's worldly, what's the word I want all of a sudden? The scripture just lost me. I lost it. Anyway, let's fast forward to Romans. I want to see how this works. Romans 12:6. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. If ministry, let us use it in our ministering. He who teaches in teaching, he who exhorts in exhortation, he who gives with liberality, he who leads with diligence, he who shows mercy with cheerfulness. Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor that which is evil and cling to that which is good. Paul, at different places in his writings, gives 3 lists of spiritual gifts. And this list has been called by some who study the word as motivational gifts. I also like to call them personality gifts. The motivational gifts are actually our personality that we're born with. We're going to go through the 7 motivational gifts, and we're going to imagine that Good Samaritan coming across this man who has been beaten and robbed, that Good Samaritan is going to play out 7 times, and each time he'll have one of the different motivational gifts. Each time he will go ahead and clean the man's wounds, bandage him, get him on his animal, and take him to an inn where he can get food and rest, and he's going to pay the tab. But each one of these 7 men is going to have a different way of looking at the same situation. But each one of them, without a doubt, is going to show agape love. And what I want us to gain from this is realizing that each of us may look at the same situation differently. It's because of who God made us. We're not all the same. And we can be in the same situation, we can look at it differently and be right. And one of the things that brings harmony in the body of Christ is when we respect each other's gifts and realize that people can approach a problem differently and still be right. I've often said that you can take any problem and there's probably 6 different ways to do it. And all 6 different ways you do it, you'll still get the job done. But it's according to the way you work, the tools you've got, and the resources you've got, which of those 6 ways you're going to do it. So we're going to start out, the first of the motivational gifts is the prophet. Now the prophet motivational gift is not like an Old Testament prophet that comes along and says, "Thus saith the Lord," you're wrong. The prophet personality is the guy that sees everything as either black or white. It's either right or it's wrong. He doesn't see anything in between. And within the church, having a mature prophet is really a wonderful thing because he will recognize when there's something wrong and he'll speak to the problem. Now, on the other hand, having an immature prophet in the body can really be a hassle because he tends to do what I'll call killing a mosquito with a sledgehammer. You know, you don't really need a sledgehammer. And because he sees things either right or wrong, and he sees something and he doesn't like it, and he jumps on it, and he causes a big stir, and it wasn't necessary at all. So the prophet needs to learn and become mature to use his gift because we all need him. The prophet is going to take care of the man as the story goes. but because he sees things in the light of right and wrong, he might say something to the injured man, you know, I'm going to get you into the next town of the inn, get you taken care of, but you know, it's really foolish for you to be out here on a road that I mean, everybody knows this is a dangerous road. There are gangs roving around. You ought to have better sense than that. Don't ever do this again. And so we go to the second motivational gift, and that is the server. This is probably the gift that the actual Good Samaritan was. The server, he sees things, physical things that need to be done, and he likes to do them. You know, shortly after we came from Versailles up here, one day after church, I was out in the vestibule, and I was talking with somebody, and somebody else comes up to me and it says, Ron, do you know where the mops are? There's water running out of the toilet in the men's room. And I said, I'm sure we've got mops here, but I haven't the foggiest idea where they are. But I know who to ask. Well, Steve wasn't on the drums today, so I guess he's on the road or on vacation or whatever. But you want to see a server? Check Steve out. And just then I see Steve coming up the hall this way. And I said, hey, Steve, I said, there's water on the men's restroom floor. Where are the mops? He says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. He didn't tell me what I wanted to know. Where are they? And he walked over to the broom closet. I didn't even know it was there. But he did, and he took care of it. He didn't say, here's a mop, go do it. That's what I was asking him. He said, I'll do it. He's a server. You want to see servers? Go back in the kitchen when we're having a dinner. The ladies that are in there, and a few men, you know, I mean, it's just like an amazing team, you know, getting everything done. And everybody just walks in and partakes and enjoys it because the servers are serving. So our servant, Samaritan, maybe the only thing he might have added to it was, well, I'll just hang around a couple days and make sure you're doing okay. I've got another appointment I need to be at, but I'll just cancel that. So then the third one is the gift of mercy. Now, I'm sorry, it's not the mercy, it's the teacher. The teacher, with that motivational gift, is interested in truth. The teacher will do a lot of study to find exactly the truth that's needed. The teacher out on the road as a Samaritan, he might say to the man, well, you know, I'm going to bandage your wounds here and get you cleaned up, and I'm going to put you on my donkey, and I'm going to get you to the next town they got an inn. But he says, you know, you shouldn't be out here driving alone by yourself. What you need to do, if you have to travel alone, you need to get yourself weaponized. Now, what I would suggest is, instead of this little walking stick you got, you need a big, long walking stick, hefty, something that isn't going to break when you crack a guy's skull with it. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to find a rock, just the right shape, that you can put on the top of this. You take some wet rawhide and strap it on as tight as you can. Put it out in the sun. That rawhide will shrink up. That stone will never come loose. Now, as you're walking along with that, you see three guys coming down the road toward you, and you think, they look kind of seedy. I don't know about them. Well, you don't want to stand in the middle of the road and wait till they find out they're going to jump on you. You just get off the road. If they walk on by, that's cool. If they come toward you, you know they're meaning you no good. Now, you got one weapon to use against them, and one way to do it, and that is with surprise. Because they're 3 of one and 1 of you, and they're not expecting to get the bad end of this altercation. So what you do is you step over there, you got your long rod with the stone on the end of it. As soon as the guy gets close enough, you go for the middle one, and you come down with that rock right about an inch back from his hairline. That's the weakest part of the skull. He won't ever get up. So you're out there like this. You've hit him. Now there's a guy on this side. You bring that other end of that up right under his rib cage. Because see, the two bottom ribs are weak in the up direction. They're strong this way. That's what they're supposed to do. You come up with that rod underneath those ribs, you'll crush two ribs. The party's over for him. Now you got the guy on the left side, and you gotta wait and see where he's at. He may be standing there with his mouth open, not knowing what to do. He may have already run, or he may be coming at you. If he's close enough, you just use that walking stick like a javelin, and you stick that rock right in his mouth. Okay? And once you extract it from his mouth, then you go ahead and conk him on the head. Go about your trip. So the teacher likes detail. And that's what the teacher would probably tell him. The exhorter is a person who's very enthusiastic personality. The exhorter is a cheerleader. When Shelley came up here to do announcements this morning, I leaned over to my wife and I said, we've got a pet name for exhorters, that's enthusiazer. I said, we got an enthusiazer in the crowd this morning. Who can bubble announcements like Shelley can? You know, it's just great. The exhorter likes to encourage people to accomplish the things that they need to accomplish. So our Samaritan exhorter, well, they normally like short projects and then they move on. You know, that exhorter may very well say to the poor guy after he gets him bandaged up and he gets him up on the donkey, he may say, you know, I don't really want you to get discouraged. I don't want you to get bitter. It's not good for your soul. He said, you realize every bad thing that happens to us, there's a silver lining in it. There's something to learn from it. You know, if you think about as you go through this healing process, and you ask the Lord to show you, He's going to give you great lessons out of this. And, you know, you may even become a great motivational speaker and do that for the rest of your life, just going around and exhorting people. The next gift is the giver. The giver is a person who sometimes God has given them the ability to make money. Sometimes it's the ability to be able to find resources. The giver is going to tell the injured man, okay, I've got your wounds cleaned up. I got you bandaged. I'm going to get you on this donkey. Now, he says, we're going to go down to the next town. He says, there's a Motel 6 there. He said, I'm going to tell you to take you to Motel 6. He says, I'm going to take my master's card and I'm going to swipe it. So it'll pay for your room and your board and everything while you're there. I'm going to go over to the Home Nursing Association and tell them I want them to make a call every day and check you out, change your bandages, and so on. And don't worry about it. I'll pay the whole bill. And I'm also going to go down to the Rent a Donkey and give them the money so when you get ready to travel, you can just go down there and pick your donkey up. And it'll be a one-way rental, so you can ride on home and just turn it in there. And so, you know, you be in good shape. See, that's what the giver would do. he would use his resources and just make things flow. And we all need a giver in our life. The mercy is the next gift. The mercy is very aware of emotional needs, of hurts. And the mercy is similar to the server, but the server looks at things from a physical aspect. The mercy looks at them from the concern of mental health and well-being and emotional well-being. So the mercy is going to get this wounded person to the shelter that he needs. But he's really concerned about his attitude. He's concerned about his spiritual well-being. And those are the things that he's going to center up on. The organizer, on the other hand, the organizer is an interesting character. He likes to create projects and get things done and then move on. And so in our Good Samaritan story, we've got an organizer that he bandages the man's wounds, he gets him patched up, and gets him ready to travel. But the thing about the organizer is he's not really a doer. He's get it organized and get everybody doing. And so he says, before I get you up on my donkey, he says, there's actually sometimes quite a bit of people traveling this road. Let's just wait a little bit. He said, hopefully we'll have a caravan come by with a bunch of people. And he says, what I'll do, he says, I'll organize a travel team to get you down to the next town. And then I'll organize a cleanup crew, because you've made quite a mess here. And so we'll get this road sanitized so it won't be offensive to the next people coming through. And then we're going to go ahead and get another team organized, and I'm going to have them go up and down this road and post signs to warn people about it's an unsafe area because of the roving gangs, and they need to travel either with weapons or in numbers. And finally, he said, I'm going to organize a posse, and we're going to go after those guys and bring them to justice. And so the organizer, he's going to get all these crews going in their own directions, and he's going to move on to the next problem. These are all gifts that we're all born with. And the thing that sometimes gets confusing to people, because Paul says these are spiritual gifts. We're all born sinners, and yet we're born with these personalities. But the thing is, the day that I say to Jesus, I want you to be the Lord of my life, the emphasis of my personality or motivational gift is to serve Jesus Christ with it, rather than to go about my business for myself. And so I've had the gift all along, but it's been centered on me. Now that I belong to Jesus, I have the same gift, but it's centered upon him. And one of the things that we need to understand about the motivational gifts is just because you have a strength in the area that God gave you and gifted you doesn't mean you can't develop some of the traits of the other gifts. And so it's possible for us to actually become so wide in our gifting that people look at us and say, I haven't a clue what his motivational gift is, because he's too well-rounded. And that really is the way that we ought to try to become. And as we see people of other giftings and the way they operate in their lives, and we feel like it's something that we'd like to have in our lives, develop it. If we turn to Luke 6:32, he says, if you love those that love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. You know, if we love somebody, serve somebody, help somebody because they're our good buds, it's just a natural inclination. But it's when there's somebody that, you know, I'm not like that guy at all. I really don't have any natural affinity to him. And yet I see an area that I can love them in. And so I'm going to do it. That's agape love. That's a God kind of love. Agape love is unselfish, it's loyal, it's devoted. Agape love is not an impulse from our emotions, but it's a commitment from our heart. Agape love does not always run in our natural inclinations. Love seeks the welfare of all, and it works ill toward none. But it seeks the opportunity to do good to all men, especially those of the household of faith. So the impression that I hope to leave everybody with today, godly love is a love that requires sacrifice. If we're not willing to sacrifice, we're not willing to love. Agape love and sacrifice walk hand in hand on the path of life. So with that, I'd never want to close a time, especially when we've been talking about God's love, without offering an opportunity, if there's anybody that has never made a commitment to Jesus Christ, I'd want the altar to be open, that you could come forward and that we could share that with you. And also, if anybody has been challenged about their own personal walk, about whether maybe true godly love is something that's been missing in your walk, that maybe you want to come for prayer, the altar's open for that too. And if there are any other general needs, you know, sometimes I'm sure that people come to church and they say, I hope I can get prayer for something, and then the service doesn't go that way, and we really don't have a formal prayer time, although I'll tell you, you can always grab somebody on the way out and say, pray for me. But the altar would be open for that too. So if there's anybody right now who wants to come forward for prayer, I would ask you to do that. Pastors here. Do what? Everybody stand up. Well, that's true. It is. Okay. Well, I hope we've all had a good time of Thanksgiving, and I do hope that we've taken the time to really talk to God and thank Him. Activities can really get in the way of that. But we have so much to be thankful for, and we also have so much to be prayerful for. And I just really encourage everybody to go about each day looking for ways that you can pray, that you can love, that you can show the love of Jesus Christ to the people around you.